Hey guys, welcome back to Arlie at Home. I'm Arlie and we are in the kitchen once again today. We're going to be dedicating today to canning and preserving foods. I have a bunch of fruits and vegetables and things that need to be preserved and saved so that we can take advantage of the prices we got them at. Not only that, but actual freshness and good flavor of them. And lately, even the cans have gone up in price so much. And it has to do with the shortage of aluminum and all of these other things. So why not can it myself? I've been doing it for a few years now, practicing. I feel more confident doing it now, so I'm going to share with you guys how I do it. There's a little bit of rubble canning involved, but we'll get it done together. I have these amazing beets. They're huge and they look beautiful. So we're going to can those up into smaller containers because they're good like that. Also, these green beans. These green beans were at a great price. They were actually like $1.98, something like that. I used some of them already, as you can tell, but the rest, I don't want to lose them. I don't want them to go bad. So we're going to can those up into small cans so we can use them in other recipes. And also, look at my hot burrito peppers. Aren't they beautiful? They finally ripened up and they're like super red, super beautiful peppers. I also have a couple of the Thai chili peppers in there that have ripened up really well. So we're going to make a hot sauce with this, and we're going to use two different kinds of canning. We're going to do water bath canning for the hot sauce and the high acidity foods, and then the lower acidity foods like the green beans and the beets, we're going to do pressure canning using my friend the pressure canner over here. So all of this is going to take place today. We're going to do some prep work. Right now I have my jars sitting in hot water. I have two different sizes. So these are 8-ounce jars. They're not that big. They're fairly small, but that's perfect for us because we're only 3 people. So there's no sense in us canning up quarts of these vegetables when we're not going to eat it in one sitting. So I tend to buy the smaller jars, just like these guys right here. They're only 4 ounces, but this is a perfect serving size of beets when my husband says, hey, let me get a can of beets, because if not, I'm opening a whole can, I'm giving him a serving of beets, and then the rest sit in the fridge until we want to use it. And they sometimes go bad because sometimes I'm just not in the mood for beets. So it's not just about preserving the food so it lasts a really long time, but about preserving it properly. We want to last a long time, but also keeping in mind how much you're going to eat. Because if I can a jar, like a jar of beets, no one's going to eat that. It's going to go to waste, and we did nothing to preserve it in the long run. So today we're going to preserve smart, and I'm going to take you guys along with me. It's going to be great. We're going to make it happen. Okay guys, these are our green beans. See, they're nice and small. They're pretty good size actually, not small. But we need to trim these ugly little bits off. And then it's not just that. I'm going to grab a jar here for reference because we want it to fit into the jar. So we might have to cut it in half for the longer ones. And let me see if I find a shorter one here. One of these little ones you may not have to cut it. So we have to figure out what fits in the jar, and then I'm going to raw pack these, which means I won't be blanching them. I won't be cooking them ahead of time. All I'm going to do is put them raw like that into this jar. And I'm going to fill it with water within 1 inch of headspace. So we're going to leave a little bit of headspace in this jar without any water. I'm going to put the lid on it, put a band on it, set it aside, and once I have enough, I'm going to put them into the pressure canner, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But it's super simple. You got to take all the funky stuff off of these beans in order to get them in there. So see, just an example, that's too big. It sticks up out the top. It's like all bent and stuff. We don't want that. So I'm just going to trim off a whole bunch of these beans so we can get them into the jars at the right size. Now, you might have a little bit more headspace than 1 inch, and that's fine because you trimmed your beans down to fit. That means you're going to have more jars. I I keep a bowl while I'm working on the beans. I keep a bowl on the side to just throw in the excess of the beans that I'm discarding. So I put them on their side like that, and I just kind of stack them. So very carefully. I make the green beans a little bit bigger jar than the beets because I will have more green beans than I will beets. So I know that these jars will be consumed, not like the beets. If I make a jar this big of beets, we're not going to eat it. My husband will eat it, but I'm not going to eat it. It's not that I don't like beets. I just, you know, not all the time. Very sparingly. So this part is a little bit time consuming, but it's worth it in the long run. And I will do this a few times throughout the growing season. I have bush beans growing now. They're not quite ready yet. They're still putting on flowers. But once I harvest those, I'll buy them. Or I'll pack them, sorry. I bought these because I don't want to waste it. I don't have the green beans now, and these looked really nice. Good sturdy beans, so why not pick it up if it's at a great price? Now if I had a garden full of beans, I probably wouldn't have bought any beans. But since I don't have them yet, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So we're gonna can beans one way or the other. You want to pack them in here pretty tightly. I think I can get you in. There we go. So you see, even if you flip it upside down, the beans don't fall out. You want it packed very tightly. And we're going to do that with the rest of the beans. Okay guys, so to every jar I'm gonna add just enough hot water to reach the bottom lip. So as you can, right just below this little lip here is where I'm gonna place the hot water. And I'm using hot water because I'm gonna put hot water into the pressure canner to keep it going and to have it can. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna debubble it. Debubbling is very simple. All you're gonna do is take a plastic fork or knife. You don't want to use metal in this at all because the metal could chip or break the can and the jar, sorry, and you don't want that. You could lose the can, you could lose the whole batch, and we don't want to do that. So all we're gonna do now is debubble it, and then we're gonna clean the ribs. So I just use a plastic fork, just the end here, and just kind of get in there, make sure everybody's in, any air that might be trapped is out. Push everybody down. You see they let out little bubbles while you're debubbling it. And you just want to make sure, because that can affect the pressure in your can. Now to clean the rims, what we're going to use is a tiny little bit of vinegar, white distilled vinegar, and a napkin. And we're just gonna run it around the rim before we put our lids on. No, get back in there. That one's a little short on water. Let me add a tiny bit. Now, you guys notice I didn't put any salt in this. I don't like to salt my cans. I prefer to leave it with just plain water because I like to salt my food as I go, tasting, making sure that I'm not over salting. That's just a personal preference. You can salt this if you want to, but I'd rather add a little bit of salt later than have my food over salted and then you can't really stand eating it. Okay guys, I got my vinegar here and I'm just gonna dab a paper towel real quick and just run it along the edges of the jars one at a time. And all that does is assures that there's no grease, fat, grease from my hands, anything like that on the rims of this jar, so that when we put the lids on top and we place it in the pressure canner, it seals completely and there's no issues. There's nothing getting in the way. This also gives you the opportunity to run your fingers using the paper towel over the top of the rims to make sure there's no chips or gouges in it or anything to that effect, because that can negatively affect the seal. I'm just gonna place a lid on each one. You don't have to keep these in hot water. The new ones are not like the old style lids that you had to heat up and heat the jars. If not, they wouldn't work. But I just like to give them a little rinse because you don't know where this lid was before. And if we can avoid introducing any kind of bacteria, well, I'm all for it. So now we're just gonna tighten it, finger tight. We're not trying to crank down on it. And we're gonna place them into the pressure canner. We're gonna turn that on. I'm at sea level here in South Florida, so I will be processing at 10 pounds pressure. Depending on your elevation, depends on what you will be processing at. But over here for us, it's at 10 pounds pressure. Okay, so let's put these in the little racks inside, and we're just gonna arrange these in here. I'm using a Nesco pressure canner, and this one will fit 7 of these cup jars. And now we're gonna cover it with hot water. Again, because if you're using hot water in your jar, you have to use hot water in your pressure canner and keep everything the same temperature. Now this pressure canner uses roughly 8 cups of water to pressure can. So that's what I'm doing. I'm measuring it out. Four. 6, and that's 8 cups of water. Okay, we're gonna put the lid on. I'm going to set it on exhaust. So we have it set on exhaust, and what we're gonna do is hit high pressure for 10 minutes, and we're gonna hit start. Now, the instructions on the Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving says that you should process the green beans in a pint jar for 20 minutes. I'm doing cup jars. So it's 8-ounce cups, 8-ounce jars. So I'm only doing half the time because half the jar. So I'm doing it for 10 minutes. Now, this is going to count down, and once it starts venting, we'll come back and I'll show you what we have to do. Okay guys, I'm putting on my gloves. I put that on backwards. I'm putting on my gloves and we're going to start processing the beets for the canner as well, even though it's being used up right now by the green beans, but we can get started on the next go around doing our prep work. So first things first, we are going to cut the tops off of the beets. Some people eat beet tops, I don't. You can save those if you want. What we're gonna do here is peel them. Now, this is gonna be a little bit of rebel canning because they suggest that you boil the beets down for a few minutes to remove the skins. I'm not gonna do that. And the reason I'm not gonna do that is because I find that if I boil the beets ahead of time, they get so soft in the jars that they just kind of, they're like a mush. I don't like it. I don't enjoy the texture of it at all. And neither does my husband. So I'd rather not do that. So what I'm gonna do is peel the beets now, dice them up, and I'm going to raw pack these. You notice I'm wearing my gloves because beets stain big time. Look at these gloves already. And I know they're gonna stain my cutting board, but that's okay. I know how to take care of it, and I'll show you guys later. It's just a process. Okay. My God, they're so beautiful though. The color of these beets is pretty impressive. Let's trim them off. Any little funky parts there. And then we're not gonna dice these big because they're gonna go into a fairly small jar. So we want them to be fairly bite-sized. Remember, we're using these tiny jars, so again, hack them in there. Just so that it sits just under the lip. Now you might have to arrange them a little bit so that they do that. But take your time and do it so that it's done properly and you get a good seal. Canning is all about taking your time, planning things out properly, and making sure that you're taking advantage of your hard work. If I didn't grow these vegetables today, I have them planted and I'm waiting for them. But had I grown them, if I would waste them, I would be so upset. Now, if you make your own pasta, you could use these beets after they've been canned to color the pasta for you. So you can make really beautiful beet colored pasta and it looks extraordinary. We're gonna do this. I'll make a video on how to do that one of these days, just to show you guys how easy it is and how beautiful it is. So I'm not really thinking too much on the shapes of these pieces. I just kind of want them to fit in here as best as possible. Okay, here we go. Now I am going to do a few larger jars because there will be times when I do want some beets. They're not all going to be tiny jars. Okay guys, so this just beeped and that's letting me know to go ahead and set it to airtight. And it'll catch its pressure. And it'll start the 10-minute countdown as soon as it reaches the right pressure. New gloves, and let's keep cutting beets. Okay guys, so the pressure canner has finished. It's gone the full cycle for the beans, and it just released all the pressure, and I can hear them popping lightly, just going. So these are our green beans. Very cautiously, they look beautiful. I'm gonna set them aside and let them cool completely to room temperature before I try handling them at all. And now that this is nice and hot and warm, the pressure canner itself, what I'm gonna do is grab I'm gonna add hot water to the beets, a few cans at a time, just whatever I can fit in here, because I do have a ton of cans. So I'm gonna do as many as I can with hot water, put them into the hot pressure canner, and just keep the process going until we get everything canned up today. Always being super cautious. Now let our water get hot, and then we're going to add it to our Kansas beets. So I picked 7 of the cup jars in there for 10 minutes. I'm going to do 7 more of the beets. My tap water gets fairly hot. If yours does not, put on a tea kettle or boil a little bit of water on this side. Just bring it up to a simmer. You don't have to boil it. And then same as before, we're going to debubble. And we're going to leave an inch of headspace, just like everybody else. And that one does not fit in there, so let's move him out here. That's going to happen to you sometimes. Sometimes you go to debubble, things will move around on you, and now they don't fit quite as well because of the water. That's fine. They can fit in someone else's jar. It's not a big deal. Okay? Get in there, buddy. All right. Okay, and now just like before, we're gonna take our vinegar and our little rag, and we're gonna run it along the edge. Now, at this point, if you didn't want your jars to get that little white ring around the outside that they sometimes get from canning, add a teaspoon or so of vinegar to your, like a little splash, to your pressure canner. I don't mind it. It comes off very simply afterwards, and I don't get that stink of vinegar cooking in the house. So I prefer it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 more. these off just a little bit. Here too. Okay. And now we just have to put our lids on there. Finger tight, just like before. And we're gonna process these just the same. Okay guys, let's work on our hot sauce next. So what we're gonna do is take our chili peppers here, our burrito peppers, and I'm gonna cut all the tops off of them and take out the majority of the seeds. Now if you notice, I'm wearing gloves because these are really spicy. And I don't want all of that oil from the peppers to just kind of linger on my skin. It'll burn after a while. It's extremely uncomfortable. So if you don't have that sensitivity to it, by all means, go ahead. And even still, I don't know if you can tell, there's still some seeds in there. I still want some heat. I just don't want like that blinding heat. So we're gonna fill this pot up with peppers. Okay guys, so I have all of those peppers in here. I have opened them up, I have removed all of their seeds, and I have not really chopped them up, but just kind of broken them up a little bit. And then I chopped very roughly half of a white onion, and to that I'm gonna add about 2 very heaping tablespoons of minced garlic. Now I'm gonna turn this on to medium-high heat. And to that, I'm gonna add 1.25 cups of water. We wanna bring that to a boil, and then we'll add the rest of our ingredients. While that's coming to a boil, I'm gonna add about 1 teaspoon of dry oregano, teaspoon of cumin, we're gonna crack in some salt. This isn't just spice, this is about adding flavor to it. This is a flavorful sauce that's just gonna add a little heat to our food. It's not a matter of burning your mouth off, although it's gonna be spicy, but it's not gonna be like miserably spicy. Alright, so the last ingredient added into this is going to be a half a cup of vinegar. And once I do that, I'm turning off the heat. These are sufficiently soft enough. See that they're just kind of, you can move them around. They're not super strong, so that means that they've softened up. They're going to allow their flavors to just kind of blend. And we're going to let this cool just a little bit here before we throw it into the blender and make it a smooth sauce. Okay guys, so I have everything from the pot inside the blender. This is still hot, so you want to be cautious. Throw a rag over the top just in case. And we're going to turn this on medium speed and see how we get along. Alright guys, finish off this sauce. It's been pureed completely, and now I'm just going to use this nice light strainer over a bowl, and we're going to strain the sauce just to get any of the pepper skin or seeds or garlic chunks or anything that might not have gone fully pureed, to just get it out of there so we can have a nice smooth sauce. Just going to use a spoon to help it along. We want this to be a nice light sauce that you just kind of dash over like a Tabasco or a Cholula type sauce. Okay guys, so we have our sauce completely strained. It's beautiful, nice and smooth. And I'm going to be using the 8-ounce jars with a funnel, and I'm going to fill these up. Now because this is super acidic, because of the peppers and the vinegar, we can water bath can it, and we don't have to pressure can this. This is beautiful. And this makes great use out of those peppers that I have so much abundance of. And I still have more that I haven't added yet. So I know I'll be making more batches, and I'll probably dry some of them just to have some dried peppers, just to give me the option of making different dishes. Okay, I never tasted this on camera, so let's see. Oh my god, it's very spicy. I mean, it's good, it's super flavorful. It's hot sauce, so it's definitely hot sauce. Alright, so we have the hot sauce jars in a can, in a pot of water, and I'm bringing it up to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, we're going to can them for about 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, we're going to remove them from here, and we're going to place them into onto a nice cloth and let them dry and come to room temperature before we remove the bands. Okay guys, so this is the most tedious and time consuming one of today. Pressure canner's off, it's cooling off so I can wash it, and in the meantime what I'm going to do now is sit down. I pulled up a chair for this one, and I'm going to peel mandarin oranges. So we're going to can mandarin oranges. I love these things, and the prices are just getting ridiculous on them. So I bought a huge bag of mandarin oranges, and I'm going to can them. Now there's a lot of chatter online about, oh, you have to use this chemical to break down the white pith area on them, or else it'll make it bitter. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, because I'm not going to can mine in water. I'm going to can them in syrup. So I know they're gonna be sweet, and I don't want them to be so sweet that it doesn't taste like an orange anymore and there's no citrus to it. So I'm gonna take off as much of the pith as I can, and then we're gonna can them in a heavy syrup. I'm gonna be sitting here peeling oranges. Okay guys, so we have painstakingly peeled and segmented a whole bag of mandarin oranges. And now I'm going to make the syrup for it, and I'm going to show you how I can them. They are a water bath can, but oh my goodness. Let's put this on here so you can see. So in this pot, I have a cup and a half of water and a cup and a half of sugar, I'm sorry. And to that, I'm going to add 4 cups of water. And we're going to bring that up to a boil. So if you wanted your syrup to be a little bit heavier, much sweeter, thicker syrup, you could always add more sugar. I prefer a lighter syrup, not so heavy duty. And so that's why I went with a cup and a half of sugar. But if I wanted it to be stronger, I would just add another half cup or even another cup of sugar. Another cup of sugar would be ridiculously sweet. So if anything, I would probably, 1.5 is fine, to 2 cups of sugar would be the most I would go. Okay guys, now that it's come down from a simmer, what we're gonna do, see, I have each one of these little guys in a 4-ounce jar, and I've packed them fairly tightly, but just enough so that you can, you know, always pull them out afterwards. And what we're gonna do is put our funnel in there carefully. This is super hot liquid, and we're gonna add just a little bit of our syrup in there. And you're still going to need a little bit of headspace in these. So just be cautious, work carefully, and then make sure that you're pushing down. Set that aside and work on the next one. Okay, guys. Now they're all filled. I'm gonna put the lids on all of them, and I'm gonna put them in the water bath canner, or in the pot to water bath can. Okay guys, so my pot will only do about 5 cans at a time. So even though they're small, I'm gonna do this in batches just to make sure that I'm being safe. There's people that say that you can stack them on top of each other and everything, but I don't like doing that. I'd rather be 100% safe and just make sure that everything I'm doing is gonna come out right so I don't have any waste. All right guys, we're at the end of today. It is finally done and over with. We have canned everything we set out to can. We did 8-ounce jars of beets, 8-ounce jars of green beans. We made our hot sauce from scratch and we canned it. We did the 4-ounce jars of beets, and we did 4-ounce jars of mandarin oranges. I'm really happy with all of this. Now, I did have 3 of the beet jars that siphoned on me, so they're not necessarily full. Some of the liquid came out while I was canning it, and that's probably my fault more than anything else, or just a bad seal on these jars. That's no big deal, because I'm going to use these first, pop them in the fridge instead of putting them into the shelf, and we'll use these beet jars first. All in all, I'm really happy with the work that I did today. It's been a great effort. So all I have left to do is just label the tops of these jars with what they are and today's date, so I know when they were made, and after that I'm done for the day. Thank you so much for sticking with me through all of this. I know it's been a lot of work and you guys have been great to follow along. I love doing this. This is very important to me, especially the way things are working out lately with inflation and costs and everything. So preserving food, making it last a very long time is something that's super important to me, and I'm glad that I can share it with you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you liked everything, and suggest things for me. Let me know in the comments anything that you guys want to see. I want to try canning just meats next, because I think that's going to be great, and it's going to make it easier to get meals on the table a little bit faster. So thank you again. Loved spending the day with you, and I hope we can do it again soon. Good night.